What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. You saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. Let's not waste any time. Let's get to the first point. First point is the performance. My car is tuned right now, stage 1 by Eurocharged. When this car was stock, it did a 0 to 100 in about 3.4 seconds or like 3.5 seconds. I'll leave a screenshot of my draggy over here. 100 to 200, I never really got the chance to test it out, but tuned 100 to 200 was about 6.5, 6.6. To put the performance into perspective, we're gonna be going against the stock E63S. I'm trying to convince the owner to go stage 1.
It pulls like a fucking train. I don't think he stepped on it all the way.
I haven't tried it yet, but I want to see if a stage 1 GTS can keep up with a Huracan or an R8. And honestly, I bet you it can. So if anyone has a Huracan or an R8 that wants to test it against a stage 1 GTS, let me know. Now, I'm sure you guys really want to know how much I'm paying for insurance, so let me give you guys a quick breakdown. First and foremost, I don't own a home. I'm not married, but the things that I do have going for me is that I am over the age of 25 and I haven't been pulled over for a speeding ticket in years. It really depends on what state you're in, your driving record, your insurance policy itself, yada yada. So the insurance policy for my car, yeah, it's a little bit steep. I'm paying $266 per month. My friend who is married, that has a house and is a few years older than me, is paying half of what I'm paying. So I think this means I have to go buy a house soon. Now, let's talk about running costs. So to keep this car running and on the road, you're gonna have to pay some nice wear and tear fees. Winter tires are a little bit hard to get for this car, but it's roughly around $525 per tire. Brake pads, on the other hand, they're not as expensive. I just get mine from FCP Euro. And for the full set, you're looking around $200 to $400. Fuel for this car recently has also been kind of an issue with the fuel prices going up and down kind of rapidly. In the state that I live in, you're looking at around $4 to $5 a gallon. And this car gets like 12 miles to the gallon, which honestly isn't very surprising at all. Now, service fees for this car. Service A for this car is actually not as bad as service B. I want to say roughly, depending on where you live and which dealership prices for services are not going to be the same throughout all Mercedes dealers. Service A for this car costs around $450, and service B from my last video costs around $850. So it really depends. And then you have a couple really big services like the transmission service. That's like $1,500. And obviously you don't have to go to a Mercedes dealer, but I do because I just want to keep all the documentation and stuff from Mercedes. Now, we get a lot of questions about what's the difference between a GT, GTS, GTC, GTR. So we're gonna do a quick overview of that right now. Unfortunately, I don't know anybody with a GTC in Massachusetts. The people that I know that have GTRs, they either don't drive it or it has upgraded turbos. But the interior of the GTS and the GTR is basically the same, except don't mind my phone mount, not sponsored by Belkin. In the GTR, you're gonna have the yellow knob in the middle. That's your 9-stage traction control system, which is actually super nice. In the GTS, you have this button over here. You get the normal mode, if it'll focus, sport handling, and then if you hold the button all the way down, it'll turn off. So in the GTS, GT, and GTC, you only have those 3 modes, but in the GTR, you have 9. Also in the GTC and GTR, you get kind of wider fenders in the back. On paper, it doesn't really sound like much, but it's like about ½ an inch wider on both sides. So it's going to be slightly wider on this side and slightly wider on this side. On paper, like I said, you can't really tell too much, but if I had this car right next to the GTR, you could probably tell. As far as I know, the GTC, GTS, and GT, they have the same front bumper. GTR also a little bit lower, slightly wider. Also on the GTR and GTR Pro, you get a titanium catback. On the GT, GTS, GTC, you get the stainless steel one. But at the end of the day, it still sounds really good. And I'm gonna step back in the car because it's freezing. So obviously when you rev a stock GTS next to a stock GTR, it's gonna sound a little bit different because of that titanium catback system in the GTR. You also get slightly wider wheels for the GTC and GTR. On the GT and GTS, you get 295s in the back. On the GTC and GTR, I believe it's 315 for the GTC and then 325s for the GTR. Factory, this car comes with around 515 horsepower, the GTC around 550, and the GTR around 575. Now, some people also ask me whether it's worth getting a GTR over GTS, and that just really depends on you. Let's discuss why you should or should not get the GTR or GTC over the GTS. So there are some people out there that religiously track their cars. So if you hit the track 5, 10, 15 times a year, then I think the extra 20 to 30 grand for the GTR is worth it. But if you're like me and you want to track your car, you've tracked it a few times, you might do it a couple times every summer, but it's mainly going to be a street vehicle, then I think honestly, save the 30K, get a GT, GTS, or GTC, and spend the money on mods. But if you're not the type of person to mod your car and you just want to keep it pure, then get the GTR, because you do get the wider stance on the GTR, you get the titanium catback, you get the 9-stage traction control. So if you have the money to blow, get the GTR. All right, now let's talk about modifications. In the aftermarket modification world for AMGs, you're gonna have a tougher time compared to BMW M. The aftermarket world for M cars is so much better than AMGs, I will say that. Let me put the pricing of the mods for the GTS into perspective for you. If you guys remember my old C43, the price of the diffuser, the exhaust tips, the wing, and the front splitter all combined were the same price as just the wing for the GTS. Let that sink in a little bit. So if you guys are like me and you can't keep a car stock, just know that you're gonna have to pay a lot for modifications. But at the end of the day, pricing aside, this car is very fun to drive, and that's an understatement. This car is so well balanced. As you can see from the previous clip, this car on roll races is basically unbeatable. From a dig, it actually does really well if the tires are nice and warm. Not on winter tires, obviously, but on summer tires. From 0 to 100, I got 3.2 seconds in a rear-wheel drive car with stage 1, obviously. And then 100 to 200, like 6.5 seconds. The used car market on this car, they're actually going down. So if you really wanted a GT, GTS, GTC, or GTR, you can get them for a really good price now. Obviously, they're gonna have to have like 5, 10, 15K miles, but a pre-facelift version of my car, the 2016 or 2017 model, you can get them for way under 100K. Would you rather get a brand new C63, or would you rather get a slightly used GTS? I think you guys already know my answer. This wouldn't be a real AM Genetics video if I didn't rev the car for you guys. Can you guys see? Oh wow, that's a perfect angle. Stock exhaust except secondary catalytic. Race mode. Really loud. In terms of reliability, I've had absolutely no issues with this car except for that transmission thing. At low speeds, the transmission started like clunking and it would kind of jerk, and then like after 5 or 10 miles an hour, it would smoothen out. And that was a completely easy fix. It just needed a software update. I'm sure not that many people care, but I'm gonna show you guys the trunk space. Here's the trunk. Here we have my camera bag, and then we have some tools and supplies, cleaning stuff. We have some car parts. If you know, you know. Trunk space is not bad at all. I went to Costco with this thing and it was perfectly fine. For the suspension in this car, it actually doesn't really matter if the car is in Comfort, Sport, or Sport Plus suspension. It's gonna be really stiff no matter what. So if you have a bad back, don't get this car. With everything that you guys have in mind now, would you buy a GT? But with that being said, I think we're all set with this video. Please do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps the algorithm notice me. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.